right, so what if you had a system that would allow you to marry the worlds of dreaming big and actualizing your goals? Being that dreamer and the realist and not having to choose between the two of them. Well, that is what we're going to talk about today, finding that sweet spot in between dreaming big, having these big, hairy, audacious goals, and actually getting down into the nitty-gritty and the details to actualize them and make them happen. So this video is the last video in the series around how to create a one-page business plan that you'll actually use. And if you've been following along, thank you so much, and I hope you've been getting a lot out of this series. And if you haven't been following along, make sure to go back and watch the other videos in this playlist. I'll link it in the cards above, because without doing all of that work, this work really isn't as powerful. And so often people want to skip straight to this step. Okay, let's get into action, let's set some goals. But without doing the bigger work around vision, purpose, finding your ideal client and your offers, this stuff really does fall flat, and I'm going to talk about why later in this video. So if you haven't downloaded that one-page business plan, go do it right now. The link is below this video in the notes, and then we're going to dive into the final part of the plan, how to create 90-day goals that are linked to that big, hairy, audacious goal that's going to move you towards that bigger picture vision you've already created for your business. So if you're ready, let's dive in. So the system that I'm going to share with you today, I've been using in my own life, in my own business for a long time now, and I have had so much success with it with other entrepreneurs and business owners. Actually, just last month, I was working with one of my clients in an offer I call the Reset Day, which is a full day business planning, strategic planning session where we really work to align mind, body, soul, and goals. And at the end of this session, this business owner gave me a testimonial on video that made me smile ear to ear. So if you want to find out what he said, go over to my website, KristenConstable.com. I'll link it in the notes below as well. And you can look under Reset Day and see his experience with how this 90-day goal system really worked for him. But for right now, I want to dive into you and how you can use this in your own business. So let's get into the 90-day goal system and how you can use these 5 steps that I'm going to go through to set goals that are attached to a big, hairy, audacious goal. We're going to talk about what that is, but also makes that big, hairy, audacious goal way more achievable and attainable and not feeling like it's way out there. Instead, having a system in place where you know exactly what the next right step is, and you can stay energized and excited around what that is. Okay, so let's get into step number 1. So step number 1 is what I touched on earlier on in this video. You need to do the upfront work first. So what I'm going to differentiate is 2 different types of goals. So there's end goals, goals that we are just looking at the end outcome, and then there's values-driven goals. And values-driven goals are reverse engineered goals where we start with our values, what's most important to us, and then we work backwards from there to figure out what exactly the goal that we should be setting is. Now, the difference between end goals and values-driven goals are huge. End goals, if you've ever set one and achieved it, you will know they feel empty when you get there. They're these big goals that you're like, why was I working so hard towards that? This isn't what I actually thought it would be. And often when we set end goals, the reason that that fulfillment is missing is because it's not linked to something that's actually important to us. So that's why this work around vision, purpose, ideal client, who you want to serve is so important before getting into this. So make sure that you're connected with all of those pieces, at least in some way, before setting out on this journey to create these 90-day goals and your big, hairy, audacious goal, which I'm going to refer to as BHAG from now on. Okay, so once you've got that, let's get into step number 2. Okay, so step number 2, once you've had a chance to do all that other work, is to create your BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal. This is the goal that has the longer time frame on it. It's actually similar to a vision in a way because it doesn't have the specificity that we're gonna get into when we talk about how we break things down. We're gonna talk about milestones and how we need to get really specific, measurable, time-bound. But the big, hairy, audacious goal is just one thing. One thing, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you be doing? I know that's a big question to explore. For some of you, you might know right away. For others of you, you might need to sit on it. But what I'll suggest is when you tap into that wise guide inside, your intuition, you will know the answer. Often what comes up for people here though is those limiting beliefs, those saboteurs, those things that say, no, that's not possible, or I could never do that. Notice if any of that dialogue is coming up for you and just check it at the door. Say thank you for being here, for trying to keep me safe, but actually I want to explore what this would look like. So some examples of a BHAG might be to launch a new course, to create a certain amount of revenue in your business, to have a certain number of clients that you're serving. These are big stretch goals that would really excite you and inspire you to achieve. And again, make sure that it's not this end goal that's not rooted in anything else, that it allows you to actually live into that vision that you've created in your one-page business plan and live and actualize your purpose. So those two things have to be present in some way or the other in that BHAG for it to be really, truly fulfilling and meaningful when you get there. Okay, so then your next step, once you've got that big, hairy, audacious goal that it's rooted in your purpose and your vision and serving your ideal client, now we get into the 90-day goal plan of the section. So 90-day goals are really helpful in the terms of staying motivated and connected to what it is that you're up to. When you've got this big, hairy, audacious goal that's 1 year out, it can be really easy to get off track, lose motivation, lose focus. But a 90-day timeline allows you to actually do enough work that you can see progress and momentum, but it's short enough to keep you on track and motivated. So these 90 days is your kind of sprint for moving towards in the direction of this big, hairy, audacious goal. So when you're creating your 90-day goals, a couple things to keep in mind is often what I find here, people try to do too much. So 3 to 5 priorities when it comes to this, and 5 is actually a lot in 90 days. So see how succinct you can get it, how focused you can get with your 90-day goals. If you had 3 to 5 top priorities to move towards your vision, that big, hairy, audacious goal, what would it be? Once you've got that, you want to make sure that these, again, are rooted in your values and what would be fulfilling for you. So go back to those pieces in your business plan and make sure that they are represented in these 3 to 5 priorities for your 90-day goals. Now we get into the nitty-gritty. We are going to chunk it down. So even these 90-day goals, although we've gotten clear and prioritized a few things, they can still remain a little bit ambiguous. They can be easy to lose track of and lose sight of because they're not specific enough. So what you want to create next in your plan is milestones. So these milestones are the things that are specific, measurable, and time-bound, and they are things that you can check in daily and weekly on to see if you're making progress towards them. So the question you want to ask yourself here with each of your priorities, each of your 90-day goals, is what is the next right step? So don't overthink this. If you could just make one small progression towards your 90-day goal, what would it be? That would be your first milestone. You don't need to have the whole thing mapped out and laid out, just the next right step. Once you're done that, then you can set out the next milestone. Specific, measurable, time-bound, go after that, celebrate it once you get there, then move on to the next one. So step number 5, and arguably the most important out of all of these, is if you're saying yes to these 3 to 5 priorities, these 3 to 5 90-day goals, what are you saying no to? From my experience in working with tons of high performers, it's not about saying yes to more, that's easy. It's around what are you gonna say no to? If you're really getting serious about these being the things that is gonna move the needle, move you towards your vision and goals, you have to say no to other things. So what are you gonna say no to say yes to this? That is your next step and final step in this process to make sure that you're staying focused and aligned on what matters to you most. One of the most common complaints I hear from people around goal setting is that it actually becomes a stressful thing in their life. So by setting these goals, it creates this pressure or this intensity, or actually they lose motivation because they set these goals but never achieve them. And that is truly detrimental to your success. If you can't be the kind of person you can count on to achieve your goals, motivation's gonna decrease and your actually confidence is gonna decrease as well. So using this 90-day goal system, you're setting yourself up in a way where it makes it super easy to achieve and stay connected to what it is that's truly important to you, and to reverse engineer your goals from a place of values and vision and purpose, as opposed to these empty end goals that when you get there, it doesn't really feel that great anyways. So if you need more support with this part of the plan, how to create goals that you're actually accomplish, I have another video on this. I'll link it in the cards, and then I'll give you everything you need to be able to hit this part of the plan out of the park. So make sure to check that out. If you're at the place now where you're not quite ready to dive in, you still need a little bit more support, that'll really help you take it home. And one last thing before heading out, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more things like this, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out being a growing channel, and you'll be notified every single week when a new video comes out online, and you'll be the first to see it. So wishing you a wonderful week, and until then.